What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Reality Roundtable. Today, I got a special guest with me. I got my boy Aaron Greene joining me. Aaron, I appreciate you
What's going on,
coming.
y'all?
Tell
What's
people a
going
little
on,
bit
everybody?
about yourself.
Yeah. My name is Aaron Greene from Orangeburg, South Carolina. Graduate of the Orangeburg Wilkinson High School. Shout out, and then graduate University of South Carolina in 2016, and then graduated from the law school in 2019, and relocated to Newark, New Jersey, where I'm the associate counsel at the New Jersey Institute for Social Justice. So a lot of things have changed the past month or so with a lot of our work, but we're still pressing forward with trying to address the needs of communities in New Jersey. But yeah, really glad to be on here. Actually met Jonathan in my time at USC. You know, as you all know, I'm sure the people that are watching this, he's a good brother, definitely well invested in our people, and very knowledgeable brother, and committed, very committed, and fearless too, I would say. You know, this brother, he doesn't just say this on the internet. I've seen him say this to people in positions of power, so that you got to respect that. You know, we need more courageous voices to lift up the concerns of our people. So glad to be here with you, brother.
I appreciate that, man. I appreciate the kind words that you said about me. Now, considering that you graduated from the law school at USC, and considering that you're doing social justice work, now with everything that's going on, like with the whole coronavirus thing. How do you feel like, people, how do you feel like this situation is being handled, in terms of like a social justice point of view?
Brother, man, there's so much I could say about that. Honestly, man, first I want to say this. I think that there are a number of community activists and organizations that are filling in gaps and finding out ways how they can fill in gaps, because we have so many issues going on right now, right? We have massive unemployment. You're talking about millions of people that don't have jobs. So that's income that's not coming in to provide for their family. Then we have, people that are working in essential jobs, where Amazon warehouses, grocery stores, and are paid low wages, right? And they're not given protection, paid leave. Some people are not given the protections they need, so they're being exposed to the virus. Just think about the inequalities about children that are not able to go to school. So some kids may not be receiving the adequate meals, right? Some kids rely on the breakfast and lunch at school, and we have massive poverty, inequality in our communities. So we see how these epidemics, you could say a pandemic in the country, we look at how it impacts our communities, and also the prison system, where we have people that are incarcerated at a very high rate and are not treated like human beings, because the Constitution says that if you are incarcerated, you are pretty much a slave in America. And we're seeing these atrocities in prisons all across this country. In South Carolina, where incarcerated women are being used to make masks. We're seeing how incarcerated people are used to build graves for a few dollars an hour. It's all over the country. We're seeing how they're being used, their labor is being used to protect, but they're not being protected themselves. So, my brother, there's so many things that are going on, and it's important for people to still be engaged and understand that your voice has power. Calling some of these officials, writing emails, putting demands, they have an impact. We're seeing in New Jersey where the governor's commuting sentences because there have been organizations that have been putting pressure on him. We've seen how some city officials have ended evictions and ended when it comes to bills and rent. Because it's very important, right? Because you look at the government, they gave $1,200 in a stimulus. What is that, right? What is that? That's really like a crumb to people, right? Because you think about the bills, the expenses they have, especially when they're out of work now. $1,200, but you give billions of dollars to corporations. You give billions of dollars to these other entities, but for the people, it's $1,200. And we're seeing that capitalism does not work, right? Capitalism does not work. It's always been an enemy of the sufferers, especially been an enemy to our people. And we're seeing it right now. And I think that what is going to have to happen is that people are going to have to intensify the pressure and say that we demand better in our country. We need reparations. We need not just monetary, but structural reparations. If you can find trillions of dollars to bail out corporations, why can't you find trillions of dollars to help Black people, Native people, and other communities that have been oppressed by the American empire? Universal basic income, housing. Housing should be a human right. We have empty houses. We have hotels. We have empty beds, but we have people sleeping in the street. Why is that happening in the richest country in the world? You have universal health care, be a human right. So there are many different things that are being exposed. But I am seeing the ills of this government even before Trump, right? These systems were in place. Now people were suffering even before him. And we have to understand that we have to attack this system. It's not just getting one person out of office. That's not going to fix it, right? It's going to have to be a total systematic change to provide coverage for our people. I know it's a lot, brother, but it's so much, man. But you can ask me any specific, I can go more in detail, but it's a lot, man, that's going on.
And with the
A lot
prison,
needs to happen to change.
And you talked about like the prison systems. Like I saw on your Instagram page that prisoners are being educated within the prisons, but they don't have masks on, they don't have gloves on, they're being susceptible to the virus. Like, what is your take on that?
Yeah, man, it goes back to the point of this prison industrial complex we have in America, right? That is an extension of the first incarceration, you know, in our when it comes to Black people, when it comes to our kidnapping from Africa and brought here to be on plantations and working without compensation for a very long time on those plantations, and they extended to the convict leasing system, and now, you know, extending to the current prison system, which disproportionately impacts Black people, disproportionately impacts brown people, and disproportionately impacts poor people. And this system extending off, like I said, the 13th Amendment, which says slavery ends, but if you are incarcerated, you are a slave. So we look at what's going on now with this epidemic. We have prisons in Alabama, where I showed the video on my Instagram, where there's no way to social distance because there are hundreds of bunks in one building, and people are living in these conditions where they don't have clean water, they don't have anywhere to self-isolate. Some people don't have masks, cleaning supplies, hand sanitizer. You had Andrew Cuomo, the governor of New York, everybody's praising him, but he still has people in prison making hand sanitizer that they cannot even use for themselves, making it for the state of New York. You have in Texas, where the Department of Corrections is making incarcerated people use cotton to make masks, 25,000 masks, where they're making those for a couple cents an hour. In Washington State, you had the same thing going on, where people are making garments. So they are, again, being used to protect an outside world, right? But there's no protection for them. And what we're looking at, the potential of, if we do not take serious action of releasing people in massive numbers, we will see this virus spread, and it will have a horrible impact because there will not be ventilators in prisons. There won't be medical staff in prisons to attend to those that are suffering from this prison because they're not treated like human beings. The Constitution says they could be treated like slaves. So we have to understand that, right? Because we look at our systems in South Carolina, 62% of the prison population is Black. That's a model that we see across this country. It's people that look like us that are put into these systems that oppress them. And if you look at the American history, are Black people the original kidnappers? Right? Were we putting people on trees and hanging them? No, we were not. So to think that we are a criminal people, criminality is just inherent. No, that's not true. That's not in us. America has determined what they think criminality is, and it put us into these systems. There's no excuse why 62% of the prison population in a state like South Carolina that is 28% Black, it's horrible. We have the largest prison population in the world. You know, in the entire world, the United States, the quote unquote land of the free, right? So I think that I just implore people that are watching to, you know, really, you know, advocate for these issues. I know, and Jonathan, if you can maybe send some stuff that I've been posting and send some other stuff. We could talk about getting this information to more people that may ask. But please, if you could lift this up, because if we do not lift these up, we cannot expect these government officials to take this on out of the kindness out of their heart. No, it's not going to happen. We have to demand better. We have to demand for the protection of our people and coverage. So
now you mentioned the state of Alabama, and when it comes to you, you were at a church where Michael Bloomberg came, and when Bloomberg spoke to that church, there were people who stood up and turned their back to him, and you were one of those people. Yeah, out there in Selma, like, what was that moment like for you? You know, being able to make such a powerful statement like that, and with a statement like that, you know, he dropped out of the race maybe like a day or two later.
Yeah, brother. It was crazy, man. Actually, you know, that was not anything we discussed. It just kind of happened naturally. So, you know, Brown AME Chapel is the meeting place. It was a meeting place when, you know, 55 years ago when they marched in Selma. And so, you know, to get in that space was powerful, to be there in that church. You know, there were a lot of dignitaries there, a lot of politicians, you know, news media, every news media outlet you could think of was in that space. To be there was just like, wow. And, you know, when Michael Bloomberg got up, you know, he first walked in, I just kind of put my head down because, you know, I'm not, when you consider what he's done to people in New York, especially our people in New York, and his track record, man, it's hard to grapple with, right? And so he walks in, you know, and he gets up, starts talking, and it's just very condescending. The way he's speaking, you know, he talked about the way people approached him about stuff he's done. And he said, well, we don't have to agree with everything. And, you know, not really showing any remorse for all that, you know, he's done to our people is one of those things where he felt like he could just buy his way into the Black community, or buy his way into the White House. And I guess it seemed like that for a lot of people because he was buying off a lot of politicians. And some people, you know, accepted those crumbs. I call them crumbs from Michael Bloomberg. But he was getting up, he was talking, and you know, I was just shaking my head the entire time. And then our director, which is like my mentor, good brother Ryan Haygood, he gets up, and I look, and he's looking back, and I'm like, what is he looking at? I said, oh. And then, you know, I looked at him, you know, gave him a head nod, and then me and my colleague Retha, we both got up and joined him. And there was another sister who we did not know. She got up, and then the whole team got up. And you could just hear the gasping in the room. People were like, oh, like the news media ran to the back trying to get pictures. It's like one person was like, it's a church. It's a church. But mostly everybody was kind of like, you know, like, wow, like, you know, this is really happening. And from my understanding, you know, I couldn't see him, but from what someone told me afterwards is that he was just shocked. He was baffled. He was struggling with his words. He couldn't believe what was happening. You know, it was one of those moments, man, that it just happened organically. And when I turned around, man, I felt so much emotion too, because I thought about, you know, the sacrifices of our people and the stances they took. You know, that really motivated me, you know, to stand and to really, you know, take that stance, you know, with the 16th richest man in the world, net worth, you know, but I thought about, you know, the stop and frisk, man, the redlining, the spying on Muslim communities, man, just the oppression that he has continued. And that oppression signifies what happened in Selma. So, you know, it was just one of those moments where it had to happen. And also in a church, right? Mm-hmm. I think it's about, a lot of times these politicians come into church and they just come in with a free pass. And it's like, it's nothing, no type of accountability. They just come in and do their drive-bys and leave, right? That's what they want, the Black vote. They feel like they just come in and get it. There's no accountability. And it was just one of those moments, man, where, you know, we were just taking a stand. Me personally, you know, it was just like, you know, that's how I felt. You know, I can't speak for everybody, but that's how I felt, you know, just taking a stand against that system and these people that continuously oppressed us, man. So I think it was a powerful moment. It happened organically, was really moved by the amount of support we received from people, like all the messages I received, just seeing it across all the airwaves. I was like, well, I didn't expect all that to happen. But, you know, it was one of those moments, man, you know, that the ancestors, man, the people that set the example of what it means to take a stand, and to, you know, really, really stand for something, right? And have courage and willingness to not turn to the team, for us as a team to just, even though it happened organically, we all stood together as a team, right? So that's love, man. That was one of those moments. It was just powerful, bro. It was just powerful, man.
You know, I appreciate you doing that, you know, highlighting everything that you just did, because with all his policies, you know, especially the whole stop and frisk thing, you know, for him to come into this race and, you know, claim to be a quote unquote Democrat and then come in the black church and act like, you know, that he's somebody who is for us.
Yeah.
You know, that's really a slap in the face. And what's really a slap in the face is that people who are the head of that church would invite a man with that kind of track record to come in. Not only with somebody who has a history with stop and frisk, but redlining as well.
Yeah, brother. Like it's one of those things where we gotta hold people accountable, man. We can't be so forgiving. You know what I'm saying? It's like, you know, one of my favorite poems, it talks about love your enemy, but when will you love yourself? Right? It seems to always be this forgiveness for politicians, right? They can just say sorry. I mean, you think about Bill Clinton, the crime bill. I'm sorry, y'all. No, what is sorry going to do? Is it going to change the impact you've had on our people, the amount of lives you destroyed? No, you have to be held accountable for what you've done. And if you're not being welcome into our community, so be it. You know, because you didn't welcome us. You didn't welcome. There were so many Black men and women's lives you destroyed. They were not welcomed into America. They were put into cages because of your policies. Because of your policies, Bill Clinton. Because of your policies and many others. You know what I'm saying? And we can't be afraid to have that energy, because if people are harming our people, why are we so forgiving? You know, we have to take a stand. You know, and that is, you know, the tradition that we come from. If you look at not everybody, but you know, we have had many people who you know, really put you know, the collective first. And I think sometimes what you have is you have gatekeepers and you have people who are looking for self, and they'll say, no, Michael Bloomberg stopped and frisk our people, but hey, he's offering me a couple $1,000, so I'm gonna forget all that, and I'm gonna take these crumbs. I'm going to say that, oh, Michael Bloomberg he's a changed man. You know, I think that is a horrible way to live. I don't see how people live with themselves, look in the mirror, because what is that worth, right? I mean, even talking about Good Friday, man, we on Good Friday not trying to preach, but I mean, you know, Judas, man, sold out for a couple crumbs, a couple pieces of silver, right? You know, like, you know, it's just that mentality, man, is dangerous. You know, why sell out? Why not buy in? Why not buy into the people instead of selling out? You know what I'm saying? Why, you know, don't sell so fast. What costs so much, man? You sell it. You're selling yourself. You're selling your principles out. You don't have to do that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and you spoke about the crime bill just now, and the Democratic nominee was the author of the crime bill, Joe Biden. Now, a lot of people would say that you should vote for the lesser of two evils when it comes to Biden and Trump. But for me, I'm the type of person, like, I can't vote for evil, period. Even if it is a lesser of two evils. Like, why should I have to always choose between evil?
Are you speaking something? This is Aaron speaking as Aaron, so I'm not speaking for my organization I work for. But yeah, man, I definitely hear where you're coming from. I'm not going to tell you to come off your principles, because I think that when we look at it, regardless who gets in office, we're gonna have to be ready to fight. Because justice is not coming from Donald Trump. Justice is definitely not coming from Joe Biden. You know, they're not coming to help our people, right? And also considering the track record of both of them, right? Look at Donald Trump's track record, even before he got in office, right? What he did with the exonerated 5 and all the racist policies he had in New York when it came to housing. We knew his track record, but also consider Joe Biden's track record, right? The author of the crime bill, the author of many criminal justice policies that hurt so many of our people. And that's one of the things that frustrated me, Jonathan, during this time, was because people were welcoming him in like he didn't do anything to our people. No accountability. It said just vote for Joe. Here's Joe. Where's the accountability for what he did to our people? And that's, for me, I feel that fire. It's like, yo, wait, he hurt our people. You know what I'm saying? That genocide, a new form of enslavement. And we raise those issues. There's pushback saying, whoa, why y'all raising those issues? Joe, that happened 20 years ago. People kill me when they say that. That happened that's only 20 years. I don't care if it happened 400 years ago. Those are people's lives who are still, I know people now still in prison or have gotten out of prison that were impacted by Joe Biden's policies. That lives were altered. And we cannot just overlook that because we have some privilege because we didn't experience it ourselves, right? Or because we may get some political clout. So I definitely feel you on that, man. I can understand why some people may say, man, I definitely can't vote for no Donald Trump, but I definitely can't vote for Joe Biden because look at what he's done to our people, right? And I think that, I'm in the voting rights space, so I encourage you to vote. I encourage everyone to utilize their vote. But I think what I encourage more also is that if you're going to vote, regardless, be ready to resist. As soon as you cast that vote, be ready to resist, whether it's the president, the mayor, the people on city council. Really understand what is going on in your communities and hold these people accountable, right? Because it's so much where we give our vote away, but these people are not going to be held accountable. What's going to happen to our community, right? You know what I'm saying? If you vote for Joe Biden, you're held accountable. What's going to happen? What are you going to get for your community? The same thing will happen over again. You got to understand that these politicians, they don't work unless you move them. You put pressure on them. So I'm not in the mindset that if you get someone else in, that things are going to change radically. Look at American history. When has things changed from the White House? The White House is like the big house, right? That's not all of our change has come from us in the community organizing and pushing. You know what I'm saying? I think this misconception that Abraham Lincoln emancipated slaves, he would not have emancipated us. He only did it because to save the Union, right? Because Black people actually helped save the Union when they joined the Union Army and fought. But also that push for slavery, that's about abolitionists, Harriet Tubman, Sojourner Truth, Frederick Douglass, they were putting pressure on Abraham Lincoln before to free us, right? So that came about because us pushing. We look at the Civil Rights Act, the Voting Rights Act, that came from people suffering and dying and protesting to be treated like human beings. Lyndon B. Johnson and these other politicians didn't wake up one day and say, oh, we want to give Black people civil rights. We want to give them voting rights. No, that was pressure. Fannie Lou Hamer and others, they put pressure. So we can't sit back and expect the Democrats, the Republicans, whoever, to do something. We have to decide ourselves if we want it. And if we want it, we have to go get it.
Yeah, what kind of disappoints me is politicians, that look like us, mainly Jim Clyburn, Steve Benjamin, both respectively, endorsing Biden, the other endorsing Bloomberg. When people who like hold power like that endorse guys like that, like I feel like that sends the wrong message to our community. Saying that even though that those people did do wrong by us, we should still give them our vote.
Yeah, speak on it, brother. I agree with you, man. I agree with you. I think that if people were going to endorse, if you have, like, for instance, the narrative was what? That Clyburn changed the election. That was the narrative, right? Changed the election. If you know you have that much power, why not the Congressional Black Caucus? Why not Black mayors and other entities come together and say, hey, we got a lot of power. Why don't we come up, we go to the community. We meet with organizers and people in the community. We come up with demands and say, we're holding our endorsement until you meet these demands, until these demands are on your agenda. Your first 100 days in office, these demands for the Black community. If you hold them, why are you not doing that? Right? Yeah. That's what we should be doing. Instead of trying to endorse people so we can get debate tickets, or we can get positions in their cabinet, or we can get some finances. Right? I mean, we saw that in South Carolina, how some of these politicians were getting paid crazy. The LLCs getting 10,000, 20,000, 30,000, 40,000, 50,000, 60,000. The thing is, like, man, like black people sacrifice so much to get you in office. Why can't you organize and strategize to utilize that power? You look at South Carolina, 60% of the Democrat bloc is African American, right? And it's like you could really change the way not only the candidates, but the Democratic platform. I think that's something that people need to understand, is that the Democratic platform is the thing to really focus on. I hope we can strategize going forward about that, is that no matter who the candidate is, the platform is decided by the committee. Whoever the candidate is, they have to follow that platform. So when we have people in South Carolina or in other places, black people in these positions, we gotta really hold them accountable and say, hey, what are you doing for us? What are you doing for your people? Instead of looking out for individual ascension, what are we doing for collective? And I agree with you, but I think it sends the wrong message. I think it makes people confused when you're coming out endorsing people without any type of accountability, any type of communication with the community, no type of demands, not holding your endorsements to push these demands until they're sought through. I mean, it's just, yeah, man, it really looks like people are out for only a personal gain, man, instead of the people.
And like during the primary season when it came time for South Carolina to vote, I can't tell you like how much media was in South Carolina, like just trying to talk to black people like all over the state, trying to see like what we were thinking. And like a few of the media outlets talked to me. They didn't print what I said though. I probably was a little too real for them. But like they asked me like what I wanted in the candidate. I said I want a candidate who will provide tangibles for my community specifically. And they asked like who was going to get my vote, and I said Tom Steyer. Tom Steyer got my vote. Reason is because one, he's an environmentalist, meaning I can pretty much count on him to fix the clean water situation. That was something for me that I could bank on. But it wasn't until like a couple of days before the election that I found that he invested in prisons.
Yeah, private prisons. Yep.
And also he had said that he seemed like he was for reparations. I mean, he wasn't afraid to mention it. So that was another reason he had got my vote. And like I feel like he was the one candidate I could go to the poll and vote for with a clear conscience. Even though like that whole prison system that is messed up, but I feel like with the people he had around him, a mentor of mine named Johnny Cadero, you know him.
Yeah,
he's a good dude. But I feel like that Johnny's not gonna endorse you unless you actually acquiesce to some of the demands of the community. And I just felt like I held his endorsement like in high esteem more than I did the endorsements of like a Jim Clyburn or Steve Benjamin, because I feel like Johnny is a man of integrity.
You want to speak on that, on the Tom Steyer?
Tom Steyer thing? Well, it just seems like he spent a lot of money in South Carolina. It seemed like he was really interested in like hearing what black people had to say, because like at first when he was asked about reparations, he was talking about like, oh, I don't know, oh, there needs to be a study or whatever. Next thing you know, like on one of the debate stages, he came out and says like, I am for reparations, I am for cash payments. Now, when you say something like that, I feel like I can at least work with you then. I can maybe get a few things done with you.
Yeah, I'm gonna be real with you, bro. I mean, I think that you have a right vote for you vote for, but I think Tom Steyer was I'm gonna be honest, I think he was giving lip service, just knowing his track record. That billionaire class, I think he was just saying whatever he needed to say to get done. But I think also, there's documentation that shows every expense that a presidential campaign makes. Yeah, I mean, I did some research, and I think I saw some of the reasons why some people were supporting some of these candidates, Tom Steyer, Michael Bloomberg, because some people were getting paid to endorse. So yeah, man, I think that Tom Steyer, man, I really didn't take his presidential campaign serious, really much at all. Just knowing his track record, knowing that I think he was saying whatever he needed to say to try to get support for Black people in South Carolina. But yeah, man, I think that for me, it just goes back to the accountability thing. You know, I think it's important to vote. It's important to show out for voting and get people registered. Because I do also advocate for the voting rights for people that are currently incarcerated. And talking to many of them, they really want their voting rights because they know the impact it'll have. But we also, when we look at voting, right, we have to talk about, you know, there's a lot of effort pushed on the presidential campaigns, which is real. But we have to look at, you know, these state races and also local city council, right? I mean, at Newark, they're thinking about universal basic income. I know in Chicago, they're talking about using money from the legalization of marijuana, using some of that money to just go specifically to the Black community. We look at some of our epidemics in our community, whether it was the housing crisis in Columbia, right? That's a local issue where people were living in housing that had a gas leak. Those are local things that impact us on a daily basis. And there's a lot of power that your city council holds. There's a lot of power that the mayor holds. There's a lot of power that, you know, other officials hold. But these turnout rates are kind of terrible, right? You have a large turnout rate, not large, not as comparable to other countries, but you have a significant turnout rate for the presidential election. But man, some of these turnout rates for city council are just, wow. You like, did anybody even vote? Right? And that's where you see a lot of power, man. Like really, you look at even with these responses to COVID, right? Yeah, different city councils are making policies that impact, you know, people that lost their jobs, feeding programs. These are things you're going to see on a local level, and you don't have that necessarily, that accountability to be able to do certain things. Like even in Columbia, right? Many people don't know that there was a COVID bill passed, and half the money went towards police retention, police recruitment, police equipment. $3 million that the city council in Columbia passed, right? And that happened, and that money could have went towards something else in regards to vulnerable communities that need things, right? So I think that you know, as much as the presidential election is pushed, I really believe the local elections have to be really, really pushed, and for people to get involved and regardless, hold people accountable. Yeah. And also too, I mean, I don't want to see this happen again. I think this could happen is that, you know, people are going to be blaming each other for the election. Like, y'all didn't get up and vote. Y'all didn't do this. Y'all didn't do that. Y'all didn't do that. And I think, I think the question is going to be too, right? I mean, if you want people to show out to vote at a high level, you have to be able to engage them, right? As a candidate. But beyond the politics of it, if you want to see someone win, you have to be able to call people and tell them why they should vote. Or we can't knock on doors now, but do that. But I think it's, you know, I just don't want to see that tension that I saw in 2016. Sometimes in the community, people blaming each other, like, "Oh, this person, you didn't do this, you didn't do that," you know. And there's a lot of blame to go around in regards to the system. But I think to blame someone that is kind of fed up with the system, I'm not necessarily going to blame them. I mean, I think that I would have conversations with them and try to encourage them, but I can't really blame people for being really not trustworthy of the system. Also being worn out of this system. We gotta give them a reason to vote. We gotta give them a reason to get engaged. We gotta mobilize. Right?
And you talked about like how like our people, how Black people are being affected by this whole thing. Did you know that in Texas they made a law saying that if you're coming from Louisiana, like they can just stop you at any time and like detain you and take you like to jail. And like sometimes like they're not even giving bail to people.
Yeah.
Like how do you? And then like there's another story where there were two Black gentlemen who were kicked out of a store by a cop for wearing masks during this pandemic.
Yeah.
And like they said that even in Chicago that Black people were 70% of the COVID-19 deaths, but were only 30% of the population. Like how do you feel like this pandemic is being used in a way to criminalize us further than what we already are being criminalized?
That's a good question, bro. Yeah, I mean, I think that I don't know if you saw in Baltimore, they're using planes fly over the Black community, going to fight on, quote unquote, fight crime. So literally spying, violating their rights to privacy. I think, yeah, I think you were going to see departments and government agencies try to utilize this pandemic to expand their access into our lives. I mean, we saw this with after September 11th. There were a lot of rights that were just thrown out, out of fear tactics, right? They were able. Now the government is able to do stuff that you probably didn't imagine, right? In regards to the being able to look into what you're looking at, or your phone, access to your phone. In the Muslim community in New York, man, they were spied on for years. The NYPD spied on them. The FBI had over 50,000 informants in the Muslim community after some, you know what I'm saying? So it's like these things that they're engaging in is very alarming. And I think what we're seeing now is alarming as well. So, the fact that we're seeing this, I think what's going to be responsible of is that the organizations and advocates and elected officials that are seeing this, we have to fight against it, right? I think that it's easy to use these times of where people are being harmed or there's a pandemic to try to expand these rights. It's something that definitely has to be fought against, man, for sure. I think you're right on the money with it, especially when it comes to our community. Right? Because when you could control people's movement, you could control what they do. You can, all that, man, is not good. It's not good for the long term impact and effect of people. Because not only that, you look at the Black Paper. That was a document in the government. They were spying on Black activists during the Trump administration, but they won't release the document. But there's actually a track record of them spying and intruding on movements within the Black community currently today, not just 50 years ago during COINTELPRO. This is happening now. So all that, man, is real because it impacts you. It takes away your rights, your liberties, if you have any, if the few liberties we may have, right? Puts you in a police state, right? And we are in a police state, but it expands it.
And you talked about like using this pandemic to like harm our people. The push for a vaccine is really heavy right now. And you have people like Bill Gates, and there were these two French doctors who were talking about like trying to get a vaccine, but testing in Africa. And it's gotten so bad that the head of the World Health Organization had to come out and say that Africa is not an experiment. Like, we're not a testing ground. Like, you're not just gonna come up in here and test on us. Like, what are your feelings towards, them wanting to test a vaccine in Africa?
Bro, that's like some Christopher Columbus type joint, man. Like, just colonizing, bro. I think it's really inhumane. It violates so many human rights. It's barbaric. Utilize people of African descent, to use them as testing grounds for this vaccine. Because if you're testing it, right, it reminds you of what the Tuskegee experiment. Because we understand, and people are kind of like, oh, why are people against vaccines, this and that. We look at our history, man, the Tuskegee experiment, we look at so many experiments on the Black body, right? In Africa, in America, like, there's been so many times where our bodies have been used and abused, man, by science, not just on the plantation, not just in the prison, but by science. And I think it was really powerful to see people come together and fight against it. But it's just alarming in a sense, because what else has happened, right? When you look at Bill Gates' involvement in Africa, of him trying to control the population, saying that families have to family plan. Africa's population is exploding. We have to do something about this. We have to do contraceptives, other things. And he's having such an impact on the policy of Africa. And you say, how, why? Bill Gates is the second richest man in the world. With that comes a lot of power. He's able to just go around the world and have an impact wherever he wants, right? He gives a lot of money to the World Health Organization. He gives a lot of money to these entities that control world policy. So we have to be very weary of people like that. You know, he puts on a smile, he has his glasses, he has his very chill demeanor, but no, he has done a lot of crazy things, man, a lot of barbaric things. And to think that he's a friend of our people, man, I think is a misconception. I'm not this, you know what I'm saying? I understand he gives scholarships. I understand he has these programs. But who with money does it? You know what I'm saying? Especially at that type of money, you can do some good. I mean, come on now. But I mean, when you look at the overall grand of things, no, you have to be very careful. Especially when you consider our people, the condition of our people. Some of the first billionaires in America were slave owners, right? We have some of the largest wealth inequality since slavery, right? So that means that, okay, yes, people are not necessarily on the plantation, right? But in the same sense, if you're paid slave wages working for Amazon, you paid slave wages working at Walmart, working at McDonald's, working at Kroger. Man, Kroger initially, they changed their policy, but initially during the pandemic, they were only going to give their workers $25 gift cards. You know what I'm saying? They were only going to give them $25 gift cards. That's it. Right? And there was pressure put on to expand some of the wages and the expansion, but people are not treated right in these entities, man. The McDonald's is $1 billion corporation. You're paying people $7 an hour. That's horrible. You know what I'm saying? Like, think about Popeyes too, right? The Popeyes chicken thing, you know, like that was a big thing, like the chicken sandwich. But think about those workers.
Yeah.
Overworked. They didn't get any extra money from the Popeyes chicken, even though they're making the sandwich. They're taking the orders. They out there working over and over all day. Those lines were crazy in our community. Popeyes made millions, bro, millions. But there was no compensation for the people that worked there. Extra compensation, right? There was no increased wages, you know, like no expansion to live on. So it's just, and I know I kind of drifted off the thing, but you know, when we understand that the world we live in, we have to be weary of a lot of things. And I think Africa, and I would say this as I end on this point, Africa is the richest country when it comes to natural resources. It's the richest, not even close, but it's the most exploited country. Well, you know what I'm saying? It's been exploited for a mighty long time, and it's still being exploited. And I think we as, you know, descendants of Africans in America, Black diaspora, we have to have a connectedness, right? That's why Malcolm and others were connecting with Africa, because it's important to have a connection throughout the Black diaspora, not just on the continent of Africa, but look at Brazil, Venezuela, all around. We have people of African descent that have been displaced, right? And put, but we all have a connectedness. We all have a similar oppressor too, as well. Things that impact us. So yeah, man, that's that's a good point you brought up, bro. Definitely.
Yeah, with me, because the point, when it comes to the point that I brought up, it's just funny to me how they would want to go into, they specifically chose Africa to want to go into, but Africa has some of the lowest COVID-19 diagnosis rates in the world. But they never want to go to places like Italy or other places in Europe or other places in Asia where the virus was quote unquote first found. Why don't they want to test it on them? Why do they want to go test it on people that look like you and me? That's what is real funny to me. And that's why I feel when I look at Bill Gates, I look at him with a side eye, I can't really trust somebody like him. The fact that you chose that specific place, makes me wonder what's your motive behind all this?
Right. That's true, bro. Yeah, that's true, man. And I think I want to ask you this too, as we're looking at what's happening around the world. What is your response in regards to how you're seeing the different reactions to the virus in different states? Also from the federal level, there's really no guidance from the White House. South Carolina was very slow moving in regards to putting the order in. I know Georgia, the governor was like, I just found out that people can really get it, even though they don't show symptoms. What's been your response to the lack of leadership, the lack of direction all across the country right now?
Well, in terms of Georgia and Governor Brian Kemp, I feel like he's lying when he said that. He knew that people can, have it without showing symptoms. But in terms of where we're from, South Carolina, and Henry McMaster, I feel like, I don't think his response has been great, especially since he does have like influence, even though he's like the state, he runs the state, he does kind of have influence on like local policies, and that the fact that a $3 million plan was passed that gives extra materials for the police. I feel like that was a horrible um response to what's going on right now. And in terms of the top, with Trump's response to this whole pandemic, knowing that he was warned about it months before, and he was just sitting there calling it Democratic hoax, like, and the fact that he fired Obama's pandemic team that Obama had in place for situations like this. So I just feel like the leadership from the top on down has just been terrible in this country.
Yeah, man, it has been. I think the ills of capitalism have been shown. I don't know if people remember, but like one of the first press conferences, he had a press conference. We had this Walmart, the CEO. I'm talking about Trump. He had a press conference with the CEO of Walmart, Target, CVS, Walgreens, and it was like, bro, it was really like a show. They were so happy to like, yeah, we're sponsoring the COVID response. All this money they're going to make off the suffering of people, especially now when we're seeing our people, right? And that's the ilk, right, of the Trump. And, like I said, it's not just Trump, it's many of them, right, that's come from that ilk of just not caring for our people, right? We have to understand this history of America as we move forward, because that's the same type of ilk. When we saw, the strange fruit hanging from the trees, man, it's the same type of ilk from the plantations, man, same type of ilk with the Jim Crow laws. We're not far removed from that. And we still see that legacy continuing of not caring for our people, man. So it's really been terrible, man, with what's happening from up top, and seeing what's happening in other states, man. But I'm just, it's gonna be tough, man. It's gonna be tough recovery. It's gonna be tough. These next few months are gonna be tough. Man, but I just hope people don't. You got to keep fighting. We got to keep fighting, man. We got to keep fighting, especially for the most vulnerable amongst us, man. Because we've seen how other things have happened during our lifetime. Remember the Bush administration, Katrina. Man, even when I think about that, right? Our people were held in the Superdome for days, bro, without any resources, no water, bro, no plumbing. It was horrible, right? And that happened in America, man. That didn't happen that wasn't another country. That happened on American soil. Right, so it has to be a major accountability and push, and we have to be demanding so much from our government during this time, because we cannot, the way it's going now, man, we cannot afford to continue happening, right? Because I think some things are deeper, right? It's not just that Black people getting sick, but some Black people probably being turned away at the hospitals, right? They're probably not the priority. Or do they have access to get to a hospital? Do they have cars? Do they have public transportation that can take them? Right? What are the conditions they're living in? So there are a lot of things that have to be addressed right now and also after this crisis, because we can't continue to go on like this, especially in our communities, seeing the atrocities that are impacting our people, man. So yeah, got to be committed, man, to the Black freedom struggle.
And you talked about the hospitals. Now, I've seen documents where hospitals are giving orders by some states, to list people who may not even have COVID-19, but may have similar symptoms to COVID-19. They may be like, some people are listed then as having COVID-19, and by doing that, it inflates the numbers of people with the coronavirus. Like, what are your thoughts on like people inflating those type of numbers, even though like those people may not even have it? They may be in there for like the flu or pneumonia, but they're being diagnosed with the coronavirus.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. I think that it's kind of like, I kind of have two sides to it, because it's like one of the things where people inflating numbers, which is can throw off, right? It can make people think like, oh, more people have it. When we think about it, though, I think that the numbers that we have now are not necessarily accurate to the people that have. I think it's a lot more people that have it that are not being that's not being shared, because a lot of people may not be getting tested, may not have access to the test, or may just may not be going to get tested. Yeah, so I think the numbers are actually probably higher than they're being reported. Yeah, that's what I have to say on that. I mean, I don't know too much about the intricacies of the policies that you're talking about, but I would say for sure that I think the numbers are higher than are being reported. But yeah, I think it is. It's not right for someone to be inflating the numbers if they're doing that, in the sense of like putting down that they have it. If that's not the answer, if that's not actually the case.
All right. Well, that's like all I really had to talk about today. Aaron, can you tell like people where like they can, since you do work with social justice, can you like tell people how we as a public can help you and the people around you in your fight to help people get just basic human rights?
Yeah, man. So I would just well, let me try to. I'm not trying to go on too long, but I would say first of all, the best thing to do when it comes to like the advocacy aspect is always to get like proximate or close to people that are vulnerable or suffering. So like, for instance, in my case, advocating for people that are incarcerated, their rights. One of the things that I've done, I made sure that I've gotten closer with that community, I communicate with people that are currently incarcerated. I communicate with people that are formerly incarcerated. I communicate with a lot of activists in that space to learn and to organize. Before we're pushing certain ideas, you want to get the perspective of those that are incarcerated. So I think what's important is to have that framework when you're, whatever you're advocating for, make sure that you are connecting with those that are really suffering and the most vulnerable amongst us. Because I've always believed the most vulnerable really hold the keys to liberation, because they understand it from a perspective of not only seeing it, but they're going through it every day. And they really have a different framework and view of what freedom may look like. Because sometimes we could be in a privileged state where we're not incarcerated, we're not in poverty, we're not living like this. And so we may not, our view on freedom may be different, but those that are really, they really know what it means, and it extends to every person. Right. I think to definitely get involved with organizations in your community. I don't know, everybody's watching, so I can't necessarily say, but I think finding out who are those organizers in your community, those organizations you respect. And also, if they're not those organizations, what are people that have common beliefs as you have, and how can you all form coalitions in your community and build together, right? Even if you may have some different viewpoints on things, but if your focus is on the freedom struggle for Black people, your focus is on the freedom struggle for vulnerable people across this world, I think you can find some ways to work together on those issues. And definitely during this time, utilizing your platforms like Twitter, Instagram, webinars. I definitely encourage you. Me and my friend Paige Woods, we started a page at Resist the Rona on Instagram. It's at Resist the Rona, and we're sharing information about organizations that are doing great work during this time. You could be donating to organizations during this time that are doing great work. There are a lot of mutual aids. I'm currently helping with one in New Jersey. We're raising money for people's families that are formerly incarcerated. They're helping them during this time. There are a lot of organizations that are delivering groceries to elderly community. There are organizations that are, providing basic resources to communities, organizations that are advocating for those that are currently incarcerated. So yeah, man, there are a lot of things that people can be involved. I definitely encourage taking some time to study some of the great minds of current day, the past. Some of my favorites are Ella Baker, Fannie Lou Hamer, George Jackson, Mumia Abu-Jamal, Malcolm X. You can go on YouTube, put on a Malcolm X video, and just kind of relax and just learn. There's so many people that I learn from daily. And even this, right, what we're doing now, this conversation, having conversation with your peers and really growing and building is vastly important. Yeah, man, there's so much that people get involved with. It's kind of tough to really, because it's like I can't hear people's questions and the way to direct them. But what I would say is Jonathan, if people reach out to you, definitely connect them with me. I have no problem with, talking to them and having a conversation that way, to kind of, point them to some more organizations that are doing some very good work during this time. You got these stimulus checks coming out, people, if you have it, if you're blessed, you know what I'm saying? I'm not saying give your whole check to somebody, I mean, if you, but maybe give a percentage. Think about that. Giving a percentage of your check to buy some resources for somebody during this time. The reason why I'm pushing that is because we're going to need community like we probably never needed before in our lifetime, because there's going to be massive unemployment. There's going to be massive inequality when it comes to economics that we've seen, but it's going to be in a bigger level. We're talking about Great Depression type levels when it comes to the lack of resources, because the government is not necessarily giving it when it's $1,200, right? That's not much. So that's a form of activism. That's revolutionary. I mean, you look at the Black Panthers, they provided healthcare clinics, food pantries. I mean, these type of actions, man, are powerful. When you providing food and clothing and resources to people, that is an action. So it doesn't have to be something on a grand scale where you're joining this big organization. It could be you providing for somebody that you know in your community that needs something, right? And you all can start something like that where you're helping people in your community. That is powerful action. That's needed. I think after this crisis is over, like I said, get involved, city council, go to those meetings, put that accountability and report back to people. If everybody's not privileged to go to city council meetings, start a club where you're sending emails, say, hey, this happened in city council this week. I'm fortunate to go because I don't have children. I can get off my job. It's that type of organizing is important. It doesn't have to be on a grand scale like you're giving I Have a Dream speech. No, it starts a micro. Any movement, there's millions of people involved. They're doing so many different things, right? So, I think the celebrity culture that we have in America just is really bad in a sense because it makes people think, oh, they got to be known for it. They have to be praised. No, when you look at the history of it, Septima Clark from South Carolina, she trained thousands of people to be activists during the civil rights movement. You know what I'm saying? Dr. called her the mother of the movement. You know what I'm saying? And she's not talked about it a lot, but her impact is felt, man. What she did, she trained thousands of people. A graduate of Benedict College, Columbia, South Carolina. So people just understand what you're doing of taking care of people. Just take care of people. That's all I can say right now. Take care of people that you know around you, that you can feel and touch. Take care of people. That's the best thing you can do right now. People that you know in your community, people that you may not know, you can just send out a message on Facebook. Hey, does anybody need help during this time? Does anybody, just things like that. If you can just spare something, if you know people that are working in grocery stores during this time, they're working in essential places. Hey, send them some money. Say, hey man, send you, like I know you're working out here at the grocery store, at Kroger or Target. Hey man, I just want to send you some money because I know this is a tough time for you. Just things like that, brother. Just things like that I feel like that we can be doing, man. We could be doing. I know we posted in, but do you want to end on a topic that's beyond this? Maybe we could talk about something sports related or music related or something like that.
Well, sports related, me being a Carolina Panthers fan, it hasn't been good for my team.
Oh,
yeah, us cutting Cam Newton, us trading Trey Turner.
What do you think about the IG battles?
Oh, I love it. I love it a lot. I really, really do. I really enjoyed the T-Pain and Tory Lanez. No, not Tory. T-Pain and Lil Jon battle. Y'all go listen to my previous episode for my recap on that.
Right.
But I enjoy all the people, go on IG Live and these IG battles, because during this time, I feel like even though like people are, quote unquote quarantine, like the IG Lives, like they're a way for people to come together to enjoy something.
Yeah. There's a way to come together, man, and just have that time. And I think that's important too, just to come together and just enjoy stuff, man, and celebrate. So that's been helping me, just talking to my friends and some of these Zoom parties and stuff, man. And really blessed to have this technology, man. But be real, everybody doesn't have that. So I always remember that, everybody doesn't necessarily have the technology and things. So, but yeah, man, it's talking to you, bro. Kind of talk about maybe a different topic, because me and you, man, we can go back, we can go back and talk about a lot of stuff. But man, it's been great. I don't know if you have any more questions.
No, I ain't have any more questions. But
Okay.
I appreciate you for coming on, and this has been another episode. This has been another episode of Reality Roundtable, and just join me next time.